she's feeling vulnerable and broke, essentially. I mean, she is almost homeless at this point. She was cut out of, obviously, Royal Lodge. She's no longer there. She can't live with Andrew. She can live with her.
I don't even think about it. I still can't get my head around, and just me. It's very difficult when you just are yourself and you do, you're not perfect and you do get it wrong.
She once lived in a 30-room royal mansion in the heart of Windsor Great Park, a life surrounded by privilege, history, and protection from one of the most powerful families in the world. But today, Sarah Ferguson, once known as the Duchess of York, is a woman without a royal home, without an official role, and surrounded by one of the biggest scandals connected to the modern British monarchy. So how did a woman who spent 2 decades living inside one of the most prestigious royal properties suddenly disappear from royal life, and what really happened behind the palace doors that led to her quiet exit? This is the story of how Sarah Ferguson went from royal luxury to uncertainty, and why the royal family finally drew the line. Before you go, something at the end might just change the way you see this. If you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. It's completely free and it genuinely helps us create more of what you love. Stay with us till the end. You won't want to miss this. For nearly 20 years, Royal Lodge was Sarah Ferguson's home. Royal Lodge is not a small house or a modest estate. It is a large 30-room mansion located deep inside Windsor Great Park, surrounded by private grounds, historic buildings, and royal security. The property once belonged to the Queen Mother and has long been considered one of the most prestigious royal residences in Britain. Prince Andrew was granted a 75-year lease on the property at an extremely low rent, effectively allowing him to live there with royal privileges for decades. What made the situation even more unusual was Sarah Ferguson's presence in the house. Despite divorcing Prince Andrew in 1996, Ferguson moved back into Royal Lodge around 2008 and lived there alongside her former husband. A divorced royal couple living together in a royal mansion might seem strange, but they explained the arrangement as part of their commitment to their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Ferguson often described their family as a tripod, suggesting that even after the divorce, they remained a close and supportive unit. For years, this unusual living arrangement continued quietly. But outside the palace walls, pressure had been building. Prince Andrew's connection to Jeffrey Epstein had troubled the royal family since 2010, when photographs emerged showing Andrew visiting Epstein's home in New York, even after Epstein had served time in prison for soliciting a minor. The controversy exploded again in 2019 when Andrew gave his now infamous interview with BBC Newsnight. During the interview, he attempted to explain his relationship with Epstein, but instead created even more public suspicion. Throughout all of this, Sarah Ferguson stood firmly beside him. She defended Andrew in interviews, appeared with him publicly, and continued living at Royal Lodge while the scandal surrounding him intensified. For a time, that loyalty seemed to protect their unusual situation. But eventually, the pressure became impossible for the monarchy to ignore. Then came October 2025, the moment everything changed. On October 30th, Buckingham Palace made a dramatic announcement. King Charles had begun the process of stripping Prince Andrew of his remaining royal privileges and honors. The decision was swift and clear. Andrew would no longer hold royal titles, no longer carry the HRH status, and would lose the privileges associated with his royal position. But the most shocking part of the announcement concerned Royal Lodge itself. Andrew's lease on the property, the mansion where he and Ferguson had lived for years, was being terminated. He was expected to leave the estate and find another place to live. Sarah Ferguson was not mentioned in the statement. No alternative arrangements were offered. After more than 15 years living in a royal residence, she suddenly found herself without a permanent home. The timing of this decision was not random. New documents released from the United States Department of Justice had revived global attention on Jeffrey Epstein and the network of powerful individuals connected to him. And within those documents were references not only to Prince Andrew, but also to Sarah Ferguson. Emails and letters suggested a far closer relationship between Ferguson and Epstein than she had previously admitted. Years earlier, Ferguson had publicly described her connection to Epstein as a gigantic mistake, but the newly released documents told a different story. Some emails showed Ferguson describing Epstein as the brother I have always wished for. In another message, she wrote, "I am at your service," suggesting she would help manage his properties in exchange for financial support. One message from 2009 even mentioned a planned lunch with Epstein in Miami that involved her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Considering Epstein had already been convicted of soliciting a minor at that time, the revelation shocked many observers. The situation became even more uncomfortable when financial connections were revealed. Reports suggested Epstein had helped Ferguson pay off personal debts, something that had troubled her finances for years. Public apologies she had made in the past now seemed very different when compared with the private messages being uncovered. By early 2026, the pressure on the royal family had reached a breaking point. Royal Lodge, once a symbol of comfort and privilege, had become a problem the palace needed to resolve. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were told they would need to leave the property. At first, they were expected to move out by January 2026, but the deadline passed and they were still there. Andrew, at least, had somewhere to go. Temporary accommodation was prepared for him at Wood Farm, a modest house on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Sarah Ferguson, however, had a much bigger problem. She had previously purchased a £4.25 million townhouse in London in 2022, but that property had been sold in 2025. Suddenly, the woman who had lived in a royal mansion for decades had no permanent place to live. Her daughters could offer temporary stays. Princess Beatrice had a home in the Cotswolds. Princess Eugenie divided her time between Portugal and Kensington Palace, but neither arrangement could provide a long-term solution. Royal insiders described the situation bluntly. Sarah Ferguson, they said, was effectively homeless. As if the personal problems were not enough, her professional life was collapsing at the same time. 6 companies connected to Ferguson were shutting down. Her charity organization also announced it would close for the foreseeable future. Several charities she had once supported quietly removed her as a patron. Organizations that had once proudly associated themselves with the Duchess of York suddenly wanted distance. Her reputation had become too controversial. In the final months at Royal Lodge, the situation became increasingly uncomfortable. While Andrew prepared to move to Sandringham, Ferguson reportedly searched for alternative royal accommodation and even explored the possibility of staying at Adelaide Cottage, a former residence associated with Prince William and Princess Catherine. But palace advisors were deeply uncomfortable with that idea. Granting another royal residence to someone linked to the Epstein scandal would create another public relations disaster. By February 2026, the end finally came. On the night of February 3rd, Prince Andrew quietly left Royal Lodge. There was no farewell gathering, no official photographs. After 20 years at one of the most prestigious addresses in Britain, he departed in silence. His new home, Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, was dramatically smaller, just a few rooms, a kitchen, and a modest living area, a far cry from the 30 rooms of Royal Lodge. But one detail made the situation even stranger. Sarah Ferguson was not there when Andrew left. According to reports, the last confirmed sighting of Ferguson at Royal Lodge had been months earlier, in September 2025. She was seen leaving the property in a car and never returned. Her last social media post was also from September, a message remembering the anniversary of September 11th. After that, she simply vanished from public view. Then the situation took another dramatic turn. On February 19, 2026, Andrew's 66th birthday, police arrived at his temporary home on the Sandringham estate. He was taken into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Authorities were investigating claims that, during his time as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade, Andrew may have shared sensitive information with Jeffrey Epstein. He was held for several hours before being released while the investigation continued. The arrest was historic. It marked the first time in modern history that a senior member of the British monarchy had been arrested. At the same time, Sarah Ferguson's location remained unclear. Reports suggested she had traveled abroad, visiting the French Alps and later the Middle East. She was eventually seen at an art event in Doha, Qatar, where her daughter, Princess Eugenie, was working as a gallery director. The image was surreal. While Andrew faced police investigation in Britain, Ferguson appeared thousands of miles away at an international art fair. Whether she was traveling simply to escape attention or avoiding something more serious remained unclear. Today, Sarah Ferguson finds herself in an extraordinary position. At 66 years old, she has no permanent royal residence, no official role, and no functioning business platform. Once known around the world as the Duchess of York, she now exists on the edge of royal society. Her loyalty to Prince Andrew may have cost her everything: her reputation, her public standing, and the royal life she once knew. And as the royal family continues to distance itself from the scandal, one question remains: will Sarah Ferguson ever return